Hello everybody, and welcome to my video on cell towers and chemtrails. If you look at this picture here, it's a radiation pattern of a cell tower antenna. It doesn't look good for the population that are close to it, and even at distances. We do have a new salute for chemtrails and possibly for cell towers. As you can see, microwave radiation will affect human cells in many ways. In biological membranes, the charge on membrane barriers are carried by ions, not by electrons as in an electrical circuit. The charge on a membrane barrier are carried by ions, not electrons, and cell phones create electric fields. Electromagnetic fields will influence polar or charged substances or molecules or ions within our bodies. Take a look at this picture as you have. Now look at this picture here. You'll have some genes, drugs, or other toxic material outside a cell membrane, and during an electric field, the electric field induces a voltage across the cell membrane, causing those genes or drugs or toxic substances to be inside the cell membrane. A microwave oven works on the principles of shifting poles of dipole molecules extremely rapidly to create heat to cook. Google microwave ovens and how they work. Mobile phones operate on microwave radiation, and you can see here how 5-10-year-olds, their brains are affected. And let's get the cell towers. Look at the cables. And so in this picture here, you're going to see the town of Milton in southern Ontario, and you can see the scale of 2 kilometers. You'll see that many cell towers are less than 2 kilometers apart, less than 10 miles for sure. And as you can see, Mississauga has a ton of cell towers. A typical cell phone has enough power to reach a cell tower of up to 45 miles away. Depending on the technology of the cell phone network, the maximum distance may be as low as 22 miles because the signal otherwise takes too long for the highly accurate timing of the cell phone protocol to work reliably. And 45 miles at less than 1 watt of power. So let's take a look at southern Ontario again here. Let's see here is 10 kilometer scale, and you can see the Golden Horseshoe has tons and tons and tons of cell phone towers. It's just massive. So here again we have the same scale, 10 kilometer scale, and you can see a 45-mile radius. So a 1 watt, less than 1 watt cell phone has that coverage. It can reach a cell tower within that area of that large circle. Cell phones transmit at less than 1 watt of power and can reach a tower 45 miles away. Look at this picture here. You've seen this before in another video. Two 1200 watt hair dryers equals 2400 watts. And that equals the amount of power that this satellite uses in orbit. And satellites orbit around 22,000 miles above, and the circumference of the Earth is 24,000 miles. That's how high these satellites are, and you only need 2400 watts. The cell towers, like the one below, are numerous and probably spaced less than 10 miles apart. If a communications satellite uses 2 hair dryers worth of power and is spaced 22,000 miles apart from me and you, then the cables below must have a purpose other than communications for 10 miles between towers or even 2 miles between towers. The amount of power in the cables below is weapons size. Enough to cook 1,000 cows in an hour? This is suspicious and it needs to be reported. So let's talk about microwave ovens. A microwave oven uses voltages of about 4 kilovolts or 4,000 volts. And it operates at a frequency of around 2400 megahertz, which is 2.4 gigahertz. This here is a microwave transmitter, and it uses something close to a 14-gauge copper wire, which is really small. 14-gauge copper wire only has a thickness of just over 1/16 of an inch. And here is a microwave transmitter. It's from a microwave oven, 4,000 volts, 2.4 gigahertz, and as you can see, it uses almost the size of house wiring. So let's talk about transmission lines. Cabling, 4-0 cable is about half an inch thick and can handle over 200 amps. We're not even going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this cable that you see on the screen now. This cable here is used in many transmission line applications of cell towers, and the center core of the thing has an outer diameter of 0.71 inches, which is almost 3/4 of an inch, and it has a peak power of 302 kilowatts. 302 kilowatts is enough power to power up 302 microwave ovens. Do you hear that? That cable that you just saw, that coaxial cable that powers cell towers, or goes up the mast of the cell towers, can power potentially 302 microwave ovens, because it has an outer diameter of core of almost 3/4 of an inch. As you can see here, these cables are massive. Just look at how massive these cables are. And you can see in comparison to the small cables in the background there, along with these large cables. This cable here in particular has almost a 3/4 inch center core outer diameter, and an outer diameter of the whole cable of about 2 inches. It's just massive. You don't need that kind of power for 2 kilometers. And look where they're putting these microwave transmitters. They're putting them at the top of church crosses. That's disgusting. So when you're at church, look what's happening to people. Look what's happening when you're near a cell tower. Look, here's another. Look at the church. Are you joking? Look at these cables. These are huge, massive cables at a church. So now let's look at backup generators. This is about a 50 kilowatt generator. That's about enough power to run a house, 200 amp power. And look at this cable here. This is even bigger than the cable I was talking before. It's the thickness of a brick, larger than the thickness of a brick. So back to the backup power for the cell towers. Look at that, 50 kilowatt. 50 kilowatt. That's unbelievable. For towers, when in fact all you need is 2.4 kilowatts to go from a satellite 22,000 miles away. The effects on human cells, let's talk about that. In this picture, you're going to see, genes and drugs outside of a cell, and then an electric field is induced, and then across the membrane, and then all of those things that are outside the cell, could be toxins, drugs, or genes, then end up inside a cell. This could be dangerous, especially if there's chemtrail spraying and we don't know what's in the spray. A lot of people are concerned about chemtrails and nobody's talking about it. The police have been informed or are doing nothing about it. And so if you don't know about chemtrails, take a look at this here. These are lines in the sky from jet aircraft. This is not engine exhaust. These are the output of nozzles. This is not thrust output from an engine. These are nozzle output from an engine. Just look at that. That is not a trail from an engine. That is a trail from a nozzle. It's chemicals. They're particulates. Tiny particulates, nano-sized particulates. And it needs to be stopped right away. Here you see a cell tower, and there again we see some massive cablings, and so we wonder now, in conjunction with the chemical spraying, are these towers used for other purposes? Because if you just talk about the engine, the turboprop engine is basically a turbine engine. It's just like the high bypass turbofan engine. They use the same core engine. It's a turbine engine, so neither of them produce trails. It's only the nozzles at the output. It's a modification in line with exhaust. Just look at the skin. The skin is a different color than the rest of the pylon. It's an addition. It's a modification. And right in line with exhaust. So any kind of trail that comes out of these jet engines is coming from the nozzle. It's very unlikely because of diffusion up in the upper atmosphere. If it was condensation, diffusion would take condensation out of the picture within seconds. Back again to the cabling. Look at the massive, massive, massive cables that go up the mast. Okay, the inner core diameter of that, the inner conductor has a diameter of almost 3/4 of an inch. Okay, these cables, this particular cable has an outer diameter of 2 inches, just over 2 inches. It has a 302 kilowatt power capacity and can power up potentially 302 microwave ovens. And we hope for God that they're not working with the chemtrails in the sky. Again, look at the cables. These are massive, massive, massive cables when a satellite in orbit only uses 2.4 kilowatts or 2,400 watts, which is about the same amount of power as a hairdryer. Okay, this has a capacity of 302,000 watts, not 2,400 watts like a hairdryer. 302,000 watts compared to 2,400 watts of a hairdryer. And the 2,400 watts of a hairdryer is satellite power from 22,000 miles above. Now, many are speculating that these regularities of waves of whatever is from the cell towers or HARP, and the chemtrails are helping with whatever purposes the electromagnetic radiation is shot into the atmosphere with. So we need to stop chemtrails, and we need to stop the microwavation of the civilian population. These are inhumane acts on a civilian population, a Section 4 violation of the Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act, punishable by life in prison. So inform police, and if the police do not respond, we need to make them defendants. Do something.